The post-WrestleMania 31 recap is brought to you by WrestleWork.com, your online social media resource to create, connect, and share everything about professional wrestling. Visit them today at WrestleWork.com. Welcome to your WrestleMania 31 post-show spectacular. This is the recap, results, review, and news following WrestleMania 31, the showcase of the Immortals, the grandest stage of them all, the spectacle of the decade, and the question on everybody's lips after WrestleMania 31 this year is, where the hell was Sheamus? No, that's not the question they're asking. But there are a lot of questions to be answered on tonight's program. My guests with me are Rob the Betty and Killer Kev. Rob, say hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure you're just loving hearing my voice yet again today.
You are the bridge of continuity between the pre-show and the post-show. You are the Corey Graves of the AngryMarks Podcast Network.
I didn't do too bad on my predictions either. I only missed 3, I believe.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably missed predictions tonight, although my wife was a pretty good prognosticator, so I gotta give credit to Chelsea where credit is due. You can read her tweets and see what I'm talking about. But Kev, how did you do on your predictions?
Well, I didn't make any predictions because up until 72 hours ago, I wasn't even planning on watching WrestleMania. Somebody at the very last minute just happened to mention, oh, I'm recapping 3 shows already this weekend, so I can't cover WrestleMania. Somebody else needs to do it. So, after being so politely thrown under the bus by the boss.
Boss.
Yes.
You would have gotten this show though anyway, don't lie.
Well, I mean, the kids were going to watch it, but I actually wasn't making any plans on doing it. So I had to scramble my weekend for a little bit to make sure we covered it. But overall, I'm not regretting having to cover it. It was pretty good. Things didn't go exactly the way I thought in a lot of cases, but I was surprised by a few things. And overall, I think we had a fairly decent show.
Yes, we did. And we had a main event that people are going to be talking about for quite some time, which is why I threw my little joke out there about Sheamus, and that's also a shout out to our friend Alan, aka Bionic Iguana, in the chat room, because he was predicting that we would see Sheamus in the IC title ladder match, and that didn't happen, nor did he show up anywhere during the broadcast. We have no idea why, but that isn't the question everybody's asking. The question they're asking is, who should really be the champion right now? Because at the very last minute, during Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins cashed in the title of Money in the Bank and went after the World Heavyweight title. But normally when you cash it in, you're cashing it in on the man who is currently champion. However, in this case, I don't know how, the stipulation changed to a 3-way because of the cash-in. So, go ahead, interject.
It's because he cashed it in the middle of the match, changing the terms of the match. Normally when it gets cashed in, it's after one person has pinned the other, and whoever's the champion is so beat down, they can't do it.
The closest, I think, to the previous moment like this is when RVD, prior to the match, cashed it in, straight up let the guy know ahead of time. That's the closest thing I could think of to this. We've never seen a cash in mid-match, while the match was still going on. So I'm guessing that means that from here forward, that if you cash in mid-match, it just becomes a 3-way.
Right, but I guess what I'm driving at here, which is what's going to be key to the booking of the storylines going forward, is that because it changed to a 3-way with the first pinfall wins the title, we have a situation now where the former champion was not pinned by the current champion, because Reigns could have pinned Brock Lesnar after the spear, but he never got that chance because he got curb stomped by Seth Rollins, and Rollins becomes new champion without having pinned Brock Lesnar. That is going to be a contentious issue, and that's actually a smart bit of booking that I want to applaud WWE for, because now you've got two people that are pissed off. Reigns had it won, but didn't get the pin. Lesnar didn't lose the title to the man now holding it.
Indeed. For once, you have to give WWE writers credit. They booked their way out of the mess they put themselves in.
Yes. And
yep, they protected both Brock and Reigns in this matchup and still put the belt on Rollins. I think it was a masterful stroke. I know a lot of people give WWE heat for the way they book things, but I think like this one was, I think, some of the best booking I've seen in a long, long time.
Honestly, for the last, I'd say, hour and a half of the show, I really have no complaints. There are some iffy things before that, and we're going to get to those as we go through this, but I'd say from pretty much the moment The Rock showed up onward, I was thoroughly enjoying WrestleMania. So, let's just rewind it. Let's take it all the way back and go back to the kickoff show. We'll start with the four-way for the tag titles. Kevin, what were your thoughts?
This was a really clusterfuck match that was all over the place, and I'm not sure exactly what happened. Really,
the referee couldn't even figure out who the legal man was half the time.
The ref lost track of who was legal like 5 minutes into this match, and pretty much for the rest of the time, it was just hodgepodge, not like just a mess. At one point in time, I just want to, which Uso went out due to injury, like somewhat early in the match?
It was Jay.
Okay, so was that, like, did he take a hard bump, or was this just a way to get him in the match and then explain away that he got hurt during the match because he was going in with the injury, or?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I didn't even know that he was injured. I haven't been keeping up on WWE the last couple of weeks, but they explained right
he
at the start of the show.
He suffered a shoulder injury during an 8-man tag match that was taped for SmackDown.
Okay, so that is a legit injury?
Yeah, they were concerned enough that he had actually been kept out of action on TV for a couple of weeks, but he said that he had been medically cleared by the doctor, which meant that despite his shoulder being banged up, they were still going to let him do the match tonight.
Okay.
Well, did you see a bump that kind of explained him being hurt?
Well, no, but I mean, it doesn't matter whether I saw it or not because he's got a real injury. So if he took a bump to sell the fact that he's injured, it just matches what's already going on.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it was the injury they came in with that they thought maybe we shouldn't go with this. Or maybe they decided to use the real injury to kind of do like a explanation to kind of make Jay kind of be like a one-man army, kind of thing.
Yeah, knowing that the injury is legit, that's exactly what it did. It was too close to WrestleMania for them to change their plans on it, but because of the injury, that's probably why they moved it off of the main card and onto the pre-show. So they just booked it so that he would immediately get injured when Cesaro pulled him off the apron. That way he didn't even have to wrestle in the match at all. That would explain why he's not there. They didn't have to change anything for the booking. It still doesn't explain why this was a clusterfuck match and the referee couldn't even keep up with who was supposed to be in there. Cause at the very end you had Cesaro, you had Kingston, and I think, or was it Big E?
It was Big E. And the weird part here is there was a pinfall attempt on Big E by one of the Matadors, and the ref didn't count because he wasn't legal at the time. But then magically, when he needed to be legal, he was legal.
Yeah, referee stops the pinfall, but then he doesn't order anybody out or anybody in. They just restart. He's just it was worse than the screw up in UFC a couple of weeks ago. Except he got to restart the match, basically.
Yeah, Drew Dober didn't get a restart, Kevin. Although he did eventually get the result overturned, so things worked out.
Yeah, you can't restart MMA matches like that, unfortunately.
No, not in that world. But in this case, I guess all's well that ends well, because I was happy that Cesaro and Kidd retained the tag titles. In fact, they're the only ones who retained the title tonight. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, absolutely. So, good that they retained, but really this match, I guess maybe in the end this match deserved to be on the pre-show.
Yeah, but the thing that confused me the most was seeing almost all of the people that were in the four-way right back in the ring again for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Like, okay, these guys better be getting a good payday for working 2 matches on the pre-show. I know they don't pay them the same as if you work on a pay-per-view, but goddamn, that's putting in a lot of effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I think kind of makes some of the argument that maybe the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal should have had more NXT guys in it and been a showcase for NXT.
Yeah, it's also unfortunate that they made Hideo Itami out to be a big deal and then had him get thrown out, finished off by the Big Show. Because, one, the visual of Hideo Itami and the Big Show kind of killed the gimmick of him being this ass kicker from Japan. And 2, that's what people are going to remember now if they haven't been watching NXT was, oh, this is the guy you had win the tournament to get in? Oh, big deal, he turned out to be.
I don't think anybody's really going to seriously think anything about that. I mean, the worst case scenario, Hitami is an afterthought here, completely not important at all. But best case scenario is that those who are loyal to NXT, they kind of know what's up here. So I don't think this is going to hurt Hitami or any NXT guy at all.
I hope so, but I'll move on from that point to a more salient point. And Rob, this is your time to shine, because I want you to talk about your thoughts on The Miz and Mizdow, and we finally got to see Mizdow turn on him and get his revenge.
Wasn't what I thought they were going to do. I think it would have been a lot better of a reaction had they not teased it quite so long. Because, I mean, what's the last 5 weeks been but nothing but a tease for, him to turn babyface. I think, he should have punched him, then Miz should have popped right back up, and then he should have thrown him up. Kind of do what I said, where they try to echo Virgil and $1 Million Man as much as possible. Throwing him out, they got a decent reaction. I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm just saying I felt like they dilly-dallied a little bit long. People knew what was coming, and they kind of lost the crowd's reaction just a little bit, I felt. But it was interesting because it set up, Mizdow to kind of have a real chance to shine in this battle royal.
Yeah, and I guess we're going to have to start calling him Damien Sandow again, because he said, "You can't fire me, I quit." So now he goes back to being his old self, and he gets to battle Big Show for the Andre the Giant Battle, Memorial Trophy, Cup, whatever. And it looks a couple of times like he might pull it off, especially when he had Big Show in the guillotine choke, and it looked like he was going to put him to sleep and pull him out of the ring, but Big Show miraculously recovered. It was all downhill from there. He picked up him and threw him out, and then he went over and stood next to the trophy with his arms crossed to do his best imitation of Andre the Giant, which, if you know how many times he's said in interviews that he didn't like being portrayed as the son of Andre the Giant in WCW, that was kind of a weird moment, at least for me.
Yeah, a little bit, but it is what it is, and it was a good pre-show overall.
Yeah, it was okay, but I hope this means that Sandow has a bigger role going forward, because why put him second to last, give him all that shine, have him finally get his revenge on The Miz, nearly beat the Big Show, come up short, and then do nothing with him. I really hope they're not going to just do nothing with him.
Well, at the very least, though, pretty much the whole point of the tournament, the way it was shaping up, was for this one moment.
Yeah, so they can have the photo op of Andre the Giant Cup and Big Show doing an impression of Andre, which again puzzles me, but if that's what they want, if that's the moment they were looking for, they got their moment.
No, the moment of breaking up Mizdow.
Oh, well, yes, that they definitely got what they wanted out of. And I know Rob says it was overdone and they took too long and they dilly-dallied, but I felt like the pop was there for it. I felt like when he finally got Miz out of the ring, he got the huge fan favorite reaction, just like he's been getting for the last month now. I thought he got a really good pop.
He did. And I think the pacing of that was, I mean, maybe Miz overdid it a little, but I don't think it was detrimental to it. I think what was more important was the pacing between Sandow and Big Show. I mean, cause really what you would have expected was Big Show to just be like, fuck it, I ain't waiting for this mess, and just dump him over and be done with it. Instead, he stood back and let Sandow stand out and shine a little bit, soak in them, and let the fans soak in the moment before he went and finally decimated him.
Yeah. So
very,
go ahead, Kev.
I said, so very good.
Yes, all's well that ends well for that. And then we had to have some time killed. They stalled for a while until we got to the actual pay-per-view. Then we opened with America the Beautiful, sung by Aloe Black, and a video package from LL Cool J, which was kind of the opposite of what I expected when they said LL Cool J was going to open the show. I mean, I knew Aloe the Black was going to sing America the Beautiful, but at the same time, I thought LL Cool J was actually going to perform when they said LL Cool J will open WrestleMania. Was I the only one? Rob, what did you think was going to happen?
I thought he was gonna open a show with a song or something like that. Maybe like write something about the history of Mania or something. But this was how he opened the show. He just it was kind of like the video that we've been seeing where he kind of talks about Mania and stuff like that. But then it kind of like he reached out and pressed the play button, and then that kind of like started the pay-per-view, which I thought was kind of neat. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah, I guess it worked okay. It just definitely felt like a letdown compared to what I actually expected. But the Intercontinental title match was not a letdown. That was a wild, crazy spectacular with ladders flying everywhere, people taking crazy bumps. Daniel Bryan, the winner ultimately of the ladder match, was actually probably the safest person in the match, and good for him considering he has neck issues. I'm glad he didn't do anything foolhardy like some of these other people did, where he could have landed on his neck and seriously jacked himself up again, especially since they gave him the big rub afterward with all the legends coming up to congratulate him and tell him how great a champion he was and put him over so huge. It's like, okay, they protected this guy in the ring and then they protected him outside of the ring. It felt good to me. It's like, this is a WrestleMania moment. This is what we want for Daniel Bryan as fans and supporters of him. So I'm happy for that. And the only disappointing thing for me about this entire match was that Stardust had a special ladder. He had a bedazzled ladder that he had hid away under the ring that he called his rocket ship to the whatever, the Cosmic Key. He had some funky name for it, some Spaceship Orient Express type of thing. Maybe it was Galaxy Express 999. I don't fucking know. Anyway, he didn't get to use it because Wade Barrett broke it into a million pieces. Rob, your thoughts?
I thought like when he actually used like a piece of the ladder to start whipping people, I was like, ow, because like I mean it's still like a piece of a ladder, and I mean that probably did not feel very very good.
No, I'm sure people have a few welts, bruises, bumps, scars, whatever, but go ahead.
The big story, Stevie, is the maybe potential injury of Dean Ambrose later on in the match. I mean, it looked like he came down pretty much straight on his head of the arena. I mean, it looked bad when I first saw it. Then when I saw the replay, I was like, that's not good. And then when I saw the doctor come out, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's what I said about people taking crazy, insane bumps during this match. I was thinking of him in particular. Kevin, your thoughts?
Definitely a great match to start, and I agree with you on Daniel Bryan. At least he didn't have to take the Dean Ambrose bump through the ladder on the outside. Man, that was wicked and easily could have gone wrong, and probably one of the sickest ladder bumps that went awry that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and people in the chat room are talking about it too. Sappy008 says Dean Ambrose took the worst of it, so the consensus is that Dean Ambrose had a bad night, and he's probably laying in a hospital bed somewhere in Santa Clara right now. So Godspeed to him. I hope he comes out of this one okay.
Well, I'm looking at post-show reports, and I'm not seeing anything about that injury anyway, so.
Yes, but shout-outs to our chat room in general. Zimney's in there, big fan of ours from Germany. Rob the Many, you're in there in the chat room watching the action. Our good friend and show recapper and podcaster extraordinaire Nikolai is in there as well. And we invite any of you listening live right now, if you just wandered over to this show from a link on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, if you just came to AngryMarks.com and heard the live stream on the homepage, well, you can interact with us. You can go to AngryMarks.com/chat and take part in the conversation. We are socially, medially interactive, just like WWE and their so-called universe. We interact with fans and listeners. So let's keep it rolling. Moving on from the ladder match, we go to Seth Rollins and Randy Orton in the hopefully conclusion of their feud. Randy Orton has, I think, settled the issue once and for all with a very sweet looking RKO that was literally out of nowhere as Seth Rollins was going for a curb stomp. That, I mean, if you want to make a vine of that, if you want to make a video that you social medially spread, that's the one to make. That RKO out of a curb stomp was a thing of beauty. Kev, your thoughts first.
That's basically it. I mean, the match itself was fairly standard fare. Nothing really spectacular about it. It was just good, solid wrestling match. But pretty much this whole match was about how it would end. That's all anybody really cared about. And Orton really just left everybody breathless with this one.
Yeah. So, actually kind of surprising that Seth Rollins recovered from the beating he took to do what he did later in the show. But I guess given they paced it out 3 hours apart, you could believably think he had time to recover from that match with Orton. But, yeah, he took a pretty hellacious beating in the match. In fact, several DDTs that looked nasty as hell. And just for good measure, J&J Security got a double draping DDT off the apron. So, all in all, a complete measure of revenge by Randy Orton. Rob, your thoughts?
I thought it was a really good match. You know, it wasn't as good as maybe my expectations were set, but I mean, my expectations were pretty high. I was expecting this match to kind of steal the show. You know, I thought Rollins performed well. I thought, you know, Randy Orton performed well. I was kind of surprised, cause I did pick Rollins to win, that Randy Orton won. You know, it was like just a really, really solid match that I thought the athletics was really on display. Seth Rollins several times just did things to make me just shake my head. I mean, when he landed pretty much on his feet from doing the Phoenix Splash, I was amazed. And then when they set up that RKO, here's all the things that had to go right for this RKO to be pulled off. One, Randy Orton had to be a solid base without putting his hands on his knees. So he's bent over with no hands on his knees at all. And Rollins has to come running over, jump onto his back, jump up off of Orton's back, then get the RKO. I mean, that could have went wrong so many different times. For them to be able to pull this off, and for Rollins to get that much air off of a guy who's not a solid base is amazing.
Yeah, and as Safi said in our chat room, that was an amazing visual. How many feet up was that RKO? And based on the camera angle, because they had a perfect camera angle, you'd think it was 5 or 6 feet, because they just made this look so beautiful and poetic. I know some wrestling fans won't like me using this word, but I called it pretty. When I saw that RKO out of nowhere, I was like, damn, that was pretty. That is a visual that I will not forget.
Speaking of pretty, his Seth Rollins' Asai moonsault to the outside was beautiful.
Yeah, everything in this match just flowed perfectly, and you have to give just as much credit to Seth Rollins as Randy Orton. These two have obviously figured out how to work well with each other. As they say in the wrestling business, they're married. They know how to feud. They know what each other can do. They know how to make each other look good. They got everything they could out of this. So, I don't know if I could call it 5 stars given the kind of card we had tonight and some of the other things that went on, but 3 stars enough. Nothing about this was unsatisfying, so kudos to both men. And from there, we move to the thing that, depending on your point of view, was either a lot of fun or a total mess or a big insult. And it started out a lot of fun, and then I kind of enjoyed the train wreck when it turned into a total mess. but the ending to me was like drinking a Moxie. And most of you listening have probably never had that beverage, but what I'm saying is, when you drink a Moxie, it's okay while you're drinking it, but the moment you stop drinking it and that taste starts to linger on your tongue and in the back of your throat, it gets really funky. It's got an aftertaste that just makes you want to wash your mouth out with anything, with Scope, with water, with a Diet Coke. It doesn't matter. You just want that taste out of your mouth the moment you're done drinking it. And that's how I felt when I saw Triple H pin Sting. It's like, oh, this tastes terrible. So, Kev, your thoughts?
This went from a bad idea to maybe an okay idea to a fairly good match to a fun, campy match to, oh my God, that was the worst thing ever. You're right. It was like drinking a Moxie. And yes, I do know what that's like. You're absolutely right. I mean, first of all, I didn't want to see this match because it's 50-year-old Sting and a Triple H who his time should be done by now. And we've become accustomed to him being CEO, COO, whatever, and not being a wrestler. But now he's thrust back into this again, and then they bring back Sting, and they bring up a 15-year-old feud that really actually never existed between Triple H and Sting at all, and I'm not even sure if it would have existed had Sting come to WWE, but this was even more bizarre, and it was supposed to be about Sting addressing the bullying of Triple H, and at the end of the match, it doesn't even seem like that got addressed, and instead, what we got was a really badly hashed DX versus NWO, which is something that should have happened like 20 years ago, that never actually did. I mean, it was kind of fun to see DX and NWO out at ringside, kind of battling each other for whatever kind of pride this is. But at the end, Triple H basically burying Sting, and Sting doing the job, and afterwards a handshake. It's like, the fuck did I just really watch? And really, I think that makes it particularly bad that this came on WrestleMania.
Right. It defies all logic and common sense that you spend all this time from Survivor Series till now building up Sting being part of the WWE Universe for the first time ever, and then on the grandest stage of them all, after all this time and all this build, you're going to have him job to the CEO. No. I mean, I know he's not the real CEO. He's a kayfabe CBO. In reality, he's like a vice president of business operations, talent affairs, whatever. But he's portrayed as the authority. So there's no chance for a rematch here because the authority in storyline has already vanquished the vigilante. Where do you go from here? You can't. And then he shook his hand afterward and seemingly accepted his defeat. And as you said, it was a weird little battle with DX and NWO that Nikolai rightly called a clusterfuck in our chat room because I saw people arguing about this in our chat during the pay-per-view. I think Seth Draken was particularly adamant that this made no sense because NWO and Sting weren't exactly always on the best of terms, and why would they support him? And you came back with, well, they're WCW for life. They stick together. It's blood thicker than water. They're all WCW. But I don't know about that because half the people on both sides of this equation are members of the clique. So if blood's thicker than water, they should all band together instead of being two factions again. It's a big fucking mess. Pardon my French. Rob. Yeah, Rob, please wait.
I mean, let's look at it this way. Sting, over 50 years old. Triple H, over 45. Hulk Hogan, over 60. Kevin Nash, over 40. I mean, Scott Hall, over 40. DX, most of the DX members, except for baby X-Pac, are at least over 40. And I think X-Pac is technically over 40. I mean, it was just baffling. Baffling.
Here's the scary thing on that, though. X-Pac is the only member of that whole entourage that's officially retired.
That's true, which is just puzzling.
And
but
for the record,
I mean,
Kevin Nash,
I liked it.
just,
I mean, I really
sorry,
liked
Rob,
the match. I really
hate to
did.
interrupt, but since you brought up age, Kevin Nash is 55 years old. So let's establish that one. Hulk Hogan is 61. Sean Waltman, aka X-Pac, is 42. And Scott Hall is 56. So yeah, we're talking nobody under the age of 40 here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like the match, they kind of won me over because my expectations were really low. I was like, you know what? I mean, it's a little slow pace, and I don't know if all crowds get it, but you know, I'm a 30-year-old wrestling fan, so I mean, I was digging it. I was like, this is fine, you know. And then, you know, little bit by little bit, it just started getting weird, and I was like really, really lost. And then it got super weird when NWO came out. And from there, when Triple H won, I mean, I was just like really, really puzzled. I mean, the only thing I could think of is maybe Triple H might have a match down the road, and this must have been Sting's one wish, is to go out on a Shield and take a loss and just, you know, participate in just Mania and call it a career. That's the only thing I could think of that is the reason why Sting didn't go over here.
I just hope he got a big fat paycheck for being part of WrestleMania. I hope the number of zeros on the end of this makes up for the fact that none of us enjoyed it. Because as Kevin said in his recap, I won't hide my disdain. This was totally wrong and pointless. The end just ruined it. Kevin, you summed up my thoughts beautifully. So if I could take anything away from this and have some level of satisfaction with it, it's that I respect Sting, I respect Steve Borden, I respect the work he's done in TNA and WCW, and obviously I can't be a fan of this result, but I can be a fan of his paycheck and him living comfortably and providing for his family. So that's my only takeaway from this, because otherwise it sucked. So
could there ever be two mismatched booking decisions and on the same card? I mean, the overbooking of this match and then the excellent booking of the main event. I mean, you couldn't be more polar opposite if you tried.
No, you couldn't. So then we had what was dubbed by Twitter, recap, chat room, everybody that was saying anything about it was the piss break of the show, Skylar Grey and Kid Ink. So do we have any comments on this at all? Rob?
Not really.
Kev?
I kind of wish that the concert had been a little longer, actually. And in light of a segment later on down, I really wish it had been a little longer. But still, at the same time, maybe if you would have got down, I didn't particularly like the segment towards the end of the show that I know what we'll get to for a lot of reasons, but I understand why they put it in. And that's just going to be one of those things where I'm just going to be at odds probably with every fucking body, and I'll just have to live with it. It would have been nice to see the Andre the Giant Memorial Tournament in this part right here. Andre the Giant Battle Royal could have been a fine piss break spot. The concert, I didn't have too much of a problem with at all. I didn't know who the rapper was.
Yeah, Kid Ink. My wife asked me the same question. He is a big wrestling fan, and he's one of the rising up and coming stars right now, so I know who he is because I run a rap site, so
right.
It's not a big deal for me, but I understand how people who don't follow rap probably have been really puzzled by everybody other than Snoop Dogg in the last month. They're like, okay, we get it. We know Snoop. He's done a lot of TV shows. He's sort of an international celebrity. He's not just a rap star. He's more than that, but they're probably puzzled when they see stuff like Wiz Khalifa and Kid Ink, and they go, who? But you gotta be a rap guy to know those guys.
Well, I wasn't puzzled by Wiz Khalifa. I mean, I knew a little bit who he was, and if you follow football, you know, he came up very popular when his song,
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow.
When his song got co-opted by the Steelers, which, you know, the song fucking annoys me, but at the same time, how many NFL teams really get a song that you can really apply to them? So, you know, can't hate on the kid. He's alright, and his performance on Raw, I thought was absolutely fine, you know, but, you know, as it was, bottom line, Concert was okay. I didn't mind it. I said that if you combine this along with the Divas tag match, which nobody is probably really going to care about anyway, that's a long enough piss break, and it'll cool the crowd down a little bit. It's a perfect place to put it in the show.
All right, fair enough. And speaking of that Divas tag match, we had the Bella Twins going against AJ Lee and Paige. The enemies, now not enemies, or frenemies, but not frenemies. They're something. Nobody really knows what at this point. But they worked well together as a team, and they were able to get the win because Nikki got caught in the Black Widow and tapped out. So, Rob, I'll start with you. Did you go and take a piss, or did you enjoy this?
Oh, I tried to give this a fair shot. I thought the interesting story was, kind of quote unquote hurting AJ early in the match and kind of having the Bellas work over Paige, and they give Paige like a couple baby spots. And then, I was kind of puzzled as to why they let AJ win, but I guess like she really didn't have anything else to do in the match, so I kind of get it. But I mean, it certainly wasn't the finish that I was expecting. I thought for sure the Bellas were winning so they can turn AJ and Paige against each other, but that did not happen.
And the other reason you might have thought that Bellas were going to win is because on the pre-show during the kickoff when they had hashtag Ask Lita, Lita teased the idea that she and Trish would form Team Besties and that the Besties would take on the Bellas at next year's WrestleMania. So you would think, if they're going to build up to that spot, why not have the Bellas win and then Lita come out and put the bad mouth on them and challenge them for next year? But that did not happen. So, I mean, maybe it will eventually. Maybe they can still do that segment at SummerSlam, but I don't know. It just seemed like a wasted opportunity.
Oh, I thought that was a tongue-in-cheek comment.
I don't know. It could have been, but I felt like Lita was angling for a WrestleMania payday, and Lord knows Trish is still in shape because she does her yoga and fitness and is looking pretty damn good. So I feel like she could have another match, and Lita could probably have one more match. And you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing that as a WrestleMania moment. So I guess
she was definitely angling for it. But I felt like the guy that was interviewing her kind of laughed it off as kind of like she was joking. So that's why I guess I kind of got the feel that maybe it was just kind of thrown out there as kind of like a joke. But, I mean, I could kind of see why, like, you'd be interested. I know I would be, kind of be like, last generation versus this generation. It'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, and certainly the most interesting thing the Bellas could do to keep me watching in my book, because I'd rather see AJ Lee and Paige in one-on-one matches with each other than see the Bellas in any kind of match with anybody. So that's just my own personal taste. I'm a big fan of Saraya Jade Davis, and I always have been. So what are you gonna do? Anyway.
So really, if Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah can make a post-retirement comeback like they did, I think Trish and Lita could do it too. But yeah, I'm kind of with Rob there. I took it as kind of more tongue-in-cheek than a comment that you could really take seriously there. But overall, I thought that this was a fairly good match too. Good solid match. You could argue whether it was WrestleMania worthy. But I think its placement in the match was more important than the match itself, and by having AJ go over with the win, I think that left the crowd a lot happier.
Yeah, they were fan favorites of AJ, especially the people who are hardcore CM Punk fans who want to chant CM Punk all the time, who know that they're married. They were certainly happy that AJ won, because this was a crowd that was very... You get this kind of crowd at WrestleMania in general, and this crowd was on fire for most of the night, but this is the kind of crowd you get when you have the big pay-per-views, the big events, the crowds that fly in from all around the world to be there. These are your hardcore fans. They know the backstage politics. They know the storylines. They care about the people they're not supposed to care about, like Damien Sandow or Mizdow, whatever you want to call him. So they reacted huge for this moment, even though normally when they put a match like this on Raw, it might not get that kind of reaction because people are going to get popcorn or whatever. So, I agree with you, the placement was good. Although Safi says it seemed like a Raw match, and I think you said that in your recap as well, Kev. I think you said it felt like a Raw match.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been absolutely fine on Raw. Like I said, maybe not the best WrestleMania moment kind of match that you look forward to, but really, WWE's writers over the last several years kind of have a habit of making the mid-card matches not as WrestleMania worthy, but then again, that's kind of a specific tactic for a specific purpose so as to not burn the crowd out.
Well, if you want your WrestleMania moment, how about Rusev coming out on a motherfucking tank? It's like No Limit Soldiers in 2015. The tank is rolling, yo.
Yeah, that was absolutely awesome, but at the same time, completely underwhelmed by Cena's interest. I mean, over the last several years, we've had marching bands roll out for him. We've had, we've had like armies of people come out for him. We had the Million Man C Nation. We didn't even get that. You're in Los Angeles. You've got like 1 billion fucking actors who would go and do this gig for $25 and a hot dog and, whatever Cena t-shirt they got left over from the concession stand. And we don't get that. We get this nice patriotic video package, but completely underwhelming compared with the marching army that Lana leads out. And good Lord, did Lana look stunning tonight.
Oh, she was the ravishing Russian in spades. Man, was she smoking.
Coming out with the United States title proudly draped over her shoulder, backed by this beautiful marching procession, leading with the Russian flag as a canopy flying behind her, and then Rusev coming in on a tank. And the boos rained down on him, and he soaked it up. Any wrestler in the world would be damn envious to be in Rusev's spot for sure right now, and definitely I think it was probably the best WrestleMania entrance of the night, to be honest, and one of the best of all time.
Yeah, well, Kev, you said the boos rained down, and maybe they did initially, but as you said yourself, that whole setup for Rusev was spectacular, and I think even though people are inclined to boo him because he's the bad foreign heel, I think that entrance ultimately won people over because during the match, and of course Cena haters are going to show up at any big show anyway, but they were really into Rusev. When they did the boo yay spots and traded punches, they were booing Cena and yaying for Rusev, which is the opposite of how WWE had it booked. And they had to know that was going to happen. So it's not even that just Cena's whole entrance video patriotic thing was underwhelming and Rusev's was overwhelming. It was the fact that Rusev is going to be in front of a smart mark crowd, and they love heels, and they turned him into the babyface tonight. They did not want to see Cena win the U.S. title, but he did anyway.
Yeah, he did, and I tell you what, the boos for Rusev coming in were loud, but when Cena was introduced, Cena just kind of had to raise his hands and like, you know what? It is what it is. And at this point, all the discussion about turning Cena heel, Cena went on a talk show a few weeks ago and basically said, fans boo me every single night. Why do I need to turn to a bad guy? They already hate me.
I guess so. And people were getting a little weirded out by Lana throwing her shoes at him during the match. I just thought that was a classic recreation of the George Bush spot where he ducked the shoe in Iraq that the reporter threw at him. So I was like, okay, she took off her shoes and threw them. She's showing her disrespect to Cena. I had no problem with this. Rob, what about you?
Yeah, I thought, right up until the main event, this was kind of the match of the night, I really thought the match was really, really well, paced. I thought that there was a couple interesting, moves throughout the match. I thought the entrance, at least Rusev's entrance was really, really cool. I thought Triple H's was a little bit cooler, but that's just, I'm a big Terminator guy, so, maybe that's why.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Go on.
I really liked the match. I thought, especially like the out of nowhere, like, blockbuster for the middle rope that Cena pulled off. I was kind of flabbergasted by that.
And,
Go ahead,
Kev.
It wasn't the blockbuster, it was an ace crusher. I've never seen Cena go for any kind of move springboarding off the middle rope, but he springboards into an ace crusher.
Oh yeah, that's my fault. Sorry about that. Yeah, they called it the stunner, but I mean, it wasn't the stunner.
Stunner, ace crusher, it's close enough.
Either way, the announce team did not let this moment pass unnoticed. They put it over big, like, Cena's motivated tonight, he's busting out new tricks! So, kudos to the announce team for recognizing that this was Cena upping his game against a foe that had previously bested him on several occasions. And Rusev did not look weak in this match, so going forward, he should be okay despite losing the United States title. He had, at several points, he had Cena beat and couldn't quite close the deal, so it's not like he walks away from this match having just had his ass whipped all over the place. He actually stays strong even despite losing the title.
You know what? If Cena's gonna start using the Cena Crusher there in part of his moveset, I'm calling it now. We need to see a giant salt before he retires.
Maybe we'll get that, Kevin. I can't promise it.
You know what? His last match in WWE should be at WrestleMania, and he finally pulls that damn thing off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, speaking of things we're gonna pull off, here's the segment of the show that you're not a fan of, that I was and probably everybody else was, and I want to address something Rob just brought up about the Terminator entrance for Triple H, because...
Oh yeah, that's that. We didn't even discuss that.
Well, I wanted to save it until we came back to Triple H coming out for the second time, because earlier in the night, he rose up on a podium with a video package behind him and Arnold Schwarzenegger narrating and a whole bunch of cyborgs and robots and evil creatures around him. And then at the end, he had somebody help him take off all the gear, and he had destroyed all the robots. Seemingly, while we weren't looking, he had their heads in his hands, and then he just threw the heads away like, I don't care. And that's where I come back to Triple H coming out for this announcement about the record-setting attendance at Levi's Stadium with Stephanie McMahon in tow. And I'm thinking to myself, you're in a suit and tie now. Just a little bit ago, like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours ago, however long it was, you were a cyborg, you were a killer, and you laid out Sting, and now you're out here in a suit and tie. And this is exactly why I have a problem with Sting losing, because you are the face of this company, both in storyline and in real life. And if Sting is only going to do one appearance at WrestleMania, for God's sake, let the man win, because you're going to get your heat back at the end of the day, because you're still here. And that's what he came out here to do. Even if he had lost to Sting earlier in the night, he would have come out and gotten his heat in this segment, and he came out and got his heat anyway after winning. Oh my God.
I'll be honest. The only reason this whole segment exists was so that they could do something with Dwayne Johnson and pop the crowd. That was it. That was purely it. But really, it's just a continued clusterfuck situation with having the authority here at all. Being this authority thing. And it's just so tiresome. And,
it is, but...
and while I enjoyed The Rock ripping off his lines and being lippy and everybody doing their cliched antics, it just kind of really wore on me. After this, we had 3 matches left in the card and we had 2 hours to fill. And, both me and Missy B and by proxy Dave Meltzer all commented that we got 3 matches that we have to find a way to fill them out in 2 hours. And I guess good way to do that is spend 25 minutes with The Rock and Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and Ronda Rousey all running their mouth at each other. But at the same time, I have problems with this because you could have put another wrestling match in this spot, and at least 2 other people could have got a nice WrestleMania payday. Instead, every single person involved in this match didn't need this payday at all. I don't think that this provided anything spectacular or meaningful for the pay-per-view. It was in the words of our esteemed legend Mick Foley, a cheap pop. This may be the biggest, cheapest, dirtiest, ugliest pop ever.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Ronda Rousey because I was about to correct you when you said this was just a cheap pop for The Rock. I think it was more than that, and I understand your displeasure with the segment as a whole, but here's how I'm going to justify what happened. They checked Ronda Rousey into the WrestleMania hotel earlier this weekend before the pay-per-view, and that made it clear she was going to have some sort of involvement. So her having a front row seat ringside right there for The Rock to find her and call her out after Stephanie McMahon slapped him and said, "What are you going to do about it, Rock? You going to hit me? No, this is my ring. I'm not going to take any crap from you. Get out of my ring right now." So The Rock, being the gentleman that he is not going to hit a lady and not going to hit Stephanie McMahon anyway because he probably likes her, but he's going to go over and find Ronda Rousey because he knows that this is a woman who fights women for a living. She's a professional mixed martial artist who also happens to be a huge pro wrestling fan and have her own wrestling stable called the Four Horsewomen. So she's more than happy to get involved and get physical because A, she does it for a living, and B, she's already a fan. So C, step into the ring, get in Stephanie McMahon's face and say, "When I'm in the ring, it's my ring. I'll leave when I want to. If you don't like it, try to throw me out." And then Triple H has to get back in The Rock's face again, which is how the whole thing got started, was The Rock trying to challenge Triple H to a WrestleMania moment. And what we got instead was a WrestleMania moment this year that sets up potentially two for next year. We could end up having Triple H versus The Rock at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, and just for shits and giggles, we could get Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon. So I understand you took a big crap on this segment, Kev, because you feel like it wasted a lot of time. They could have given other people a payday. But Rob, did you enjoy this? Because I sure did.
Oh, yeah, I loved this, just when I was kind of getting irritated and I thought maybe Stephanie was going to get one over on The Rock and really make him take a powder. Like, I didn't know about Rousey, so I was completely caught off guard. When Rock paused in front of her, I was like, I instantly started doing the yes chant in my living room, which I'm not going to do now for the benefit of my neighbors. However, I was really, really looking forward to this. I knew how much it meant to her, and I was just kind of really excited, And when she went in there and did finally start to mix it up, especially with the nice hip toss to Triple H, I kind of appreciated that, and it makes sense because she does have judo background, and judo, does have some roots in a lot of other pro wrestling moves. So that made sense. And the only thing I was a little bit bummed about, and I said this in the chat room, is I was kind of hoping that, Rousey would turn it into, her traditional armbar and kind of really, really actually kind of give Stephanie her comeuppance. No, she still put her in like an arm rigger of some sort. And that was cool because, Stephanie was like selling it like $1 million. But I just kind of wanted to see her hit something like that to really kind of really make the moment even bigger. But maybe I was expecting a little too much.
Well,
let me just ask this. Out of all of this, in the end, what did it do for wrestling? What did it do for any of the storylines? What did it do for the company?
Make the McMahon, the Authority, eat some crow for once.
But they're still there.
I know, but they rarely, if ever, really kind of get bested. And this is I think the only third time that they've really got bested. The only other time was Vicky Guerrero getting the better of Stephanie, and them temporarily getting beat in Survivor Series, and then this.
Well, this kind of goes back to a long-running issue that I've had with WWE and the authority figure, going all the way back to Vince McMahon revealing that he was actually the owner of World Wrestling Federation, which is time and time again, Vince McMahon or the McMahons or Linda McMahon or Shane McMahon or whoever always ends up on top in the end, and every once in a while they'll get their comeuppance, but if not 40 if not less than 72 hours later, it's like it never happened. It didn't matter. They're still marching on. They're still in charge and doing the same shit. And how many wrestlers have come through time and time and time again and taught the McMahons a lesson, and the McMahons still carry on? And how many celebrities have time and time and time again come in and taught the McMahons a lesson, and the McMahons continue to carry on? The message that we got at the end was really the message that Stephanie McMahon delivered at the whole beginning of this clusterfuck, which is, we are the McMahons. We own everybody in the back. We own every one of you sheep that are paying for our product, and we always will. It is.
I can't argue with that because it's true. I mean, I myself am, like a lot of fans, tired of the authority angles. I think they kind of burnt themselves out of this storyline years and years ago. One could be argued it worked really well for Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold, and then that should have been it. But, you know, a lot of this, the common theory is the reason why the authority angle's still around is because it's a spot the McMahons can fill so that they can kind of get their jollies off on being in power and having one over on the wrestlers. And so they could say, well, we could get over. How come you can't? And I agree. Like, that's the one bad part is this really doesn't serve anything. The Rock's going back to making movies. Rousey's going to UFC. Steph and Triple H will come out tomorrow night and do something dastardly, and there will be nobody there to stop them because Sting's gone too. So, I mean, yes, it doesn't really serve a purpose, but I thought it was like a nice kind of moment, you know, something that could probably be seen on ESPN. And, in the end, I think that's what makes it worth it for WWE.
That and the potential of not having seen
but,
already,
you know,
that we might see that.
You know, I'm just really tired of it. Now that we've got this, now that we've got The Rock stepping up and challenging Triple H, you know, I mean, we're right back to what's the point now? I mean, because the either one of two things are going to happen here. Either the McMahons are going to somehow bury The Rock, or The Rock will get one off on him, and then he'll go back to Hollywood, he'll make another movie, and the McMahons will still be right there.
Well, as Nick says in the chat room, that one thing we didn't get out of this was Ronda Rousey putting Steph in the armbar, which Rob mentioned as well. So,
and that's a good thing.
That at least is, if you want to get something out of this long term, maybe the authorities still gets to run things. Maybe, as Safi correctly calls Stephanie McMahon, the Queen Bee Steph still gets to be in charge and talk down to people. But in the end, there can be the comeuppance we've been waiting for. In the end, she knows that Ronda Rousey can come back at any time and whip her ass.
Well, I was going to say it's a good thing she didn't put her in the armbar, because look what happened to the last person who was not a UFC fighter who stepped up to Ronda Rousey. She broke his fucking arm.
Yeah, so
we don't need another accident like that.
And if we're going to see the armbar, save it for WrestleMania next year and make us wait to see it. That's my point. But
hey, Steve.
Yes.
We've got another person that's joined us on the line.
Oh, well, who's joined us on the post-show Angry Marks podcast?
Mr. Seth Draken has decided to chime in. What's up, Seth?
Not much. Just got done with Mania, walking the dog, bring my friend home and stuff.
Miley, it's time for a walk.
Yeah, she already had it.
All right. Well, since we're still on the subject of Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon and Triple H and The Rock, any thoughts on that, Seth, before we move on?
You know, after the abomination, I thought of my nostalgia of Sting versus Triple H. I don't care about the nostalgia of Rock and Triple H again, although I really did want to see Ronda Rousey break Steph's arm for the way she's been acting. I'm sorry.
Well, eventually, maybe. We'll just have to wait a little while longer for that one. But, hey, one other thing that I'll take away from this before we move on from it, huge cross-promotional WWE and UFC joint venture here, getting these two sides on the same page for Ronda Rousey to make a big WrestleMania appearance like this and have a moment where both UFC and WWE will be mentioned in the same breath in the press, Sports Center, everywhere else that's been mentioned. As Safi said in the chat, this was for the press. So, huge kudos to those two companies for putting their egos aside and actually agreeing to do this spot.
Well, I'm not sure completely. I think one of the things that Ronda Rousey getting too physical in there was don't know if Dana White would 100% like that.
Well, that's probably why she didn't put on an armbar, because Dana White wouldn't want her to get hurt before her fight with Betch Correa. But that's still a few months away, so they're probably pretty safe even if something had happened.
Yeah.
So, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next match that followed this, and we'll figure out if we enjoyed the rest of the card or not. As I said, for me, everything from The Rock onward was pretty much a thumbs up. But we've got Seth Draken on the panel now, too, so let's start with him for the first thing that followed this, Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker.
I'll say it's better than Sting on Triple H.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. Go on.
I'll say Taker's looked better than he has in a while.
Yeah.
And, other than that, it wasn't a good match.
Oh.
There were some good spots, but I didn't like it.
I guess I enjoyed it. I agree. Right up to the point you said you didn't like it, I agreed with everything you said, was that it was better than Triple H versus Sting.
Spot.
It was, Undertaker did physically look good. He obviously got healthy, got in shape, had a good year off, so I was satisfied with him getting his win back and not going out in his last WrestleMania match ever with a loss. You know, it's nice.
Well, it was a loss and it was a terrible match, too.
Anyway, that's not, I mean, yeah, you can make of last year's match what you will, but this year's match, whether we think it was terrible or not, and I don't think it was terrible, at least now Undertaker, if that's his last match, he can ride off into the sunset, having won in his final WrestleMania appearance. Although, since he's from Texas, I wouldn't be surprised if
that ain't happening.
You don't think he might come back for one more next year?
No, I'm saying he is coming back. That's what I'm saying. That's not his last match.
All right. Well, then
he's coming to Texas.
Let's get some other thoughts on this as well. Rob, we've heard what Seth Draken said. You've heard what I had to say. Where do you fall on this? Did you enjoy it or not?
I enjoyed it. I guess I could kind of see why somebody would not. Its pace was a little bit slow, but I mean, that's kind of what I expected. Two guys who are kind of more known for being smash mouth guys. It was a different match than some of the rest of the matches tonight. You know, I guess, Triple H and Sting were kind of like the traditional wrestling match with a bunch of 1997, fucked finishes, and the ladder match was kind of like a spot fest, and, this kind of filled in with kind of like a just two guys punching each other in the face, kind of match. And I really enjoyed it. I thought Taker looked really good. I think, only towards the end did he get like a little bit gassed. But that's gonna happen because, cardio can only do so much to get you ready for the ring. And I thought Bray really performed well. I mean, I'm disappointed that Bray didn't win and that he's now 0-2 at Mania. But, I kind of predicted that Taker was gonna win, so I wasn't super surprised. I was just kind of hoping that I was wrong on this one, but I wasn't.
Well, for the people who are complaining that Bray Wyatt is 0-2 in WrestleMania, they're forgetting the other O. The zeros on the end of his check, because he got featured with Cena last year and he got featured with Undertaker this year, so you got to expect he got a pretty good payday out of that. Although I know some people in the chat room were saying, well, CM Punk would beg to differ about the size of his WrestleMania paychecks, but CM Punk is a pretty unhappy man about his entire experience in WWE anyway, which is why he's now a UFC fighter, because he wanted to go somewhere where he felt he'd be treated with more respect. I'm saying I feel like they're treating Bray Wyatt with respect because he actually had the better of Undertaker at several points in this match. It wasn't like it was a one-sided beating. It was more like, this is a war. Maybe it was too slow-paced for some people. I imagine Kevin might fall in that camp. But I enjoyed seeing all of the classic spots, the top rope walk, old school as they say, Snake Eyes in the corner, and Bray Wyatt hitting the shoulder tackle to block the following move was actually brilliant. That's, it to me works on the level
What about Bray Wyatt kneeing the steps?
Okay.
Well, that looked awful. That was the worst spot of the night. He missed him by like 20 miles.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't saying everything in this match was perfect, but I felt like what we got out of it was what I wanted out of it, which was Bray Wyatt, for the most part, didn't go out there looking like a scrub. He actually had a competitive match with Undertaker that Undertaker just got the better of him in the end. So, Kevin?
Well, you know me and you disagree on this one, Steve. I mean, I will let Kev speak, but I just wanted to get that out there. I disagree with that point. I don't really feel like being in a match with Taker means as much after him finally losing as you seem to think it is. But
I think he's still a legend, and I think that people still appreciate him as the competitor that he is, especially when he comes out in good shape, as everybody has noted, and goes out there and works his ass off. So, Kevin?
We forgot the entrances, too.
Okay, yeah, well, how about we let Kevin talk about that, because I've tried to throw it to Kevin 3 times. Kevin, you can talk about the entrances.
Well, the entrances were fine. Undertaker was, standard Undertaker entrance. We've seen more spectacular WrestleMania entrances for Undertaker. This entrance is more like you would expect if he was main event on Raw or SmackDown. But no problem with it, was good. Bray Wyatt's entrance was quite a bit interesting as well, with the army of scarecrows that became animated after he came up and touched them, and it all looked like like leftover Thriller dancers a little bit, or as I commented in the chat room, hey AMC, you're missing some walkers. Right.
Yeah, they were Walking Dead scarecrows.
And I believe The Walking Dead was actually on, when this match kicked off at 10 o'clock. If I remember, I'm not a fan of this.
It was. I can absolutely tell you it was.
So I thought it was an apt, funny comment in the chat room. You just had to be there though. Match itself was, I didn't want this match to happen because what I was afraid would happen would be same broken Undertaker that we've seen appear the last 4 years, maybe 5 years. And, I just did not really want to see it. I mean, it was sickening enough to see happen 2 years ago. And that's when I absolutely said, I can't watch Undertaker wrestle anymore. It is just too hard on me to see him not recognize that his time has passed. Last year, it was pretty much the same thing, but I accepted it simply because it was Brock Lesnar, and let me be clear here, Lesnar carried him to a decent enough match, and Undertaker was gracious enough to lose because Undertaker and Vince weren't even sure Undertaker would be able to carry. But what I was afraid that Undertaker was once again not going to be in the best of shape, and I also worried that Bray Wyatt may not be a strong enough or good enough wrestler to be able to carry Undertaker and to make this thing all work.
Well, you forget one thing about Bray Wyatt. Apparently during before the show, he had sprained his knee.
Sprained his ankle.
Ankle. Yeah, he sprained his ankle before the show.
Yeah, unfortunately, but that didn't seem to hinder him.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That was worrisome, though.
And I expected him to, even if he had a sprained ankle, to gut it out and go out there because it is Undertaker. If nobody agrees with me except for me, I'll say it. Working with The Undertaker is pretty special, and Bray Wyatt would do anything humanly possible to get through the pain and do that match with him.
I know it's humanly possible. I'm just saying sometimes your body does not let you work.
Yeah, well, he found a way. There were a couple of points when he dropped to one knee, and I was like, oh, his ankle gave out on him. But he gutted it out. He made it through.
Yeah, but, so I was afraid that this was not going to be a very good match, but pleasantly surprised here. Undertaker did show up in shape to, absolutely prove those rumors true. And I'll say it right here. I think Undertaker looked in the best shape since Undertaker versus HBK 2. And really, this match, I thought was actually a lot stronger match than what I was going to give it credit for. You thought, Steve, that I was not going to like it because of the slow pacing? I liked it because of the slow pacing this time, and here is why. The difference between these and the last 3 or 4 matches with Undertaker is we had to do the slow pacing 3 or 4 years ago because Undertaker was in such bad shape, and even with the slow pacing, it looked bad. Here, Undertaker was in shape, but we did the slow pacing because this match was not about the physicality between these two men. This was a psychological battle, and more importantly, it was a psychological battle with the fans. This was all about making the fans believe in the mysticism of The Undertaker one more time, to reinforce the mysticism of Bray Walker, and this match absolutely did it. The pacing of this match was crucial to telling that story. So, this match actually got a real big thumbs up from me. No problems with any spot in this match at all. Loved it.
All right. Well,
And I'll just say this just to summarize it real quick about why this match was on the card. Well, obviously this match was on the card because if this is going to be Undertaker's last match, he does go out on top, and at least he looks good with it. And whether or not Bray Wyatt was worthy of being in this match, Undertaker can wrestle anybody he wants. And if Undertaker says, no, I'm not working that person, you can bet your ass Vince McMahon ain't saying, oh, yes, you are.
Well, let's get that out of the way first. Yes, Bray Wyatt was, based on character, he was worthy of working with Undertaker.
Well, I mean, really, I think this speaks to not Bray Wyatt as a character, but Bray Wyatt as a worker and as a member of this wrestling company and as a member of the wrestling community. You know, he's second generation, third generation, maybe? I can't remember.
No, actually, yes. His mother is the daughter of, one wrestler. I forget his name. Barry Windham.
Well,
his mother is the daughter of Barry Windham, so yes, third generation.
Yeah, I mean, he's third generation wrestler here. He's been, he lives in the business. So I think that really speaks a lot when Undertaker says, yes, I want to work this guy. And
not his brother, Bo Dallas.
Yeah, but Bo Dallas, let's just be honest. I mean, I am sure that Bo Dallas is a charming young man behind the scenes, but as far as his character is just not there in the business. I don't even think his character gets any spotlight on TNA or some indie cards, to be honest at this point. But
Kevin, you've got to believe.
And what's up with the goatee? Good Lord, if this guy couldn't look any creepier, he's now got a goatee. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. But really, I think this had a lot to do with the professionalism of Bray Walker and how much respect he has.
Bray Walker?
Bray Walker.
He just turned him into a character from The Walking Dead, Bray Walker.
He turned him into Braden Walker.
Talk about the complete opposite of somebody who has no respect behind the scenes. Good Lord, what a gop. And I'm not going to edit that out. We're just going to laugh at that because it's funny. It really is funny. I think this speaks a lot to the respect that Bray Wyatt has as a professional behind the scenes from people who actually mean something to this business, who know something about this business, who are the movers and shakers in this business. And I think this absolutely speaks to the type of person that Bray is, and combined with the fact that John Cena worked with him last year at WrestleMania. You're right. The whole reason that Bray is here is not because of the zeros in his WrestleMania record, but at the zeros behind his paycheck. And he's getting the zeros behind the paycheck because behind the scenes, he's got his ducks in a row, everything lined up. I'll say this right now. It would not surprise me 20 years from now if Bray Wyatt finds himself in a situation similar to Triple H.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. So,
except I don't think there's another McMahon daughter he can make.
No.
Granddaughter, but Bray would be old by that point.
Yeah, I don't know if I see that happening. So.
And I
no, it's not. It's not. It's just a joke.
And I don't know if Triple H would exactly be cool with his daughters marrying somebody that much older than them.
Oh, hell no.
No. So, Seth, we talked about the main event a little bit earlier to open the show, but before we wrap it up, since you weren't here for that, any thoughts on the triple threat that we got at the very end?
Well, I do have the thoughts on the triple threat. I like the fact that Brock Lesnar beat the shit out of Roman most of the match.
Yeah, and then we got it turned
which
around.
I called.
When
I just want to say I called that.
When Lesnar got busted open on the steel pole hard way, and then Roman Reigns laid into him with Superman punch after Superman punch. We kind of got the opposite, was Reigns beat his ass for a while.
Yeah, but you really were like, no, please don't do it like this. No, come on.
Yeah, no.
Don't go rope-a-dope on our asses.
Well, at least Seth Rollins came out and saved the day, so we can all be happy for that. That now we've got new things to look forward to for Raw the next night, which will be talked about in depth by Angry Tensai and Big Vic, who you
got 3 challengers immediately. You got Brock Lesnar, never lost the belt. Roman Reigns never got his shot, even though he got pinned here, but...
No, that's pretty much what we said at the open of the show, was multiple issues coming out of this.
And Orton beat him.
Yeah, so Orton is a challenger, which I didn't make that point, so I'm glad you brought that up, but Orton beat Rollins, so he's a future challenger right away, and Lesnar didn't get pinned, so he wants that belt back, and Reigns, by all rights, had the match won and didn't get to finish it, so yeah, lots of issues, lots of ways they can go going forward, so I'm saying thumbs up for WrestleMania 31 on the whole. Seth, thumbs up, down, or in the middle?
Let's see. Hated the Hall of Fame last night. And, because Macho Man wasn't allowed to be inducted last. Because Nash is a bigger star for some fucking reason.
Well, Vince McMahon is never gonna let a dead man go on last. He hates that shit.
I don't care. He's gonna let himself go on. If he's dead, he'll go on last.
You know what? I really think that the reason Macho Man didn't go over last is because how long the show ended up running. I think that if some of the other spots had been a lot shorter, Kevin Nash would have went on earlier and they would have ended the show on Macho Man, because I think that's definitely how a lot of people would. But because it ran over and it was running past 4 hours, I think the decision was made, put Macho Man right at the end of the 4th hour. So that way, people who were not expecting to stay more than 4 hours of this didn't fade before we got to that. Because if it got to 4 hours and we still didn't get the Macho Man and people were tapping out, it just would have completely ruined the moment, and then everybody would have bitched about how it was ruined. And then people would bitch about, well, I couldn't stay and I got to miss Macho Man induction. And it's just a huge, big mess.
Then again, gentlemen, I would agree with you on that. But then you have to look at later on in the night when they had Nash be still the headliner.
Yeah, well, Nash was always going to be the headliner. We're kind of getting sidetracked here on an issue I wasn't even going to delve into, so.
Yeah, first match, spot fest, but good. I kind of enjoyed it. Second match was, other than the ending being kind of a little ridiculous, it was good. I say ridiculous because either Rollins made it look like a goof, or Orton is made to look superhuman because his neck had picked a guy up.
Yeah, no, we pretty much all marked out for that spot. I know you weren't here for that, but we all loved it.
Third match, oh god.
Yeah, that's the consensus.
Travesty.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed as a nostalgia fan for that third match. I absolutely... And here's the big question. Why the fuck did the NWO Black and White help out Sting?
I know, I'm sorry, we already discussed that. You weren't here. It makes no goddamn sense. But I'm just saying, you were here for the rest of that, so just give us your summary. Thumbs up, down, in the middle, on the whole.
The concert, I slept through that, and the Divas match, I thought was better than Sting Triple H, so can't say that bad. What was next? And then we were at Triple H, yeah, so, although I forgot to mention, Ronda Rousey is a Dragon Ball Z fan, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure our good friend, Emperor Big D, was very pleased with that, so, hey, if you're not checking out his, Dragon Ball Z updates on the new movie, go to thesuperfriendsuniverse.com and see what he has to say, because he's posting regular updates about the new Dragon Ball Z F, so it's a lot of fun to listen to his updates, but just a bottom line, thumbs up, thumbs down, where is it?
I'd say it was better than what I expected, better than what Eddie Wright's had any right to be.
So is that a thumbs up?
Yeah, a thumbs up to not all the way up.
All right, thank you. And Rob, thumbs up, down, or in the middle?
Thumbs way up for this. There was a lot of, out of wrestling drama going on in my life there, for some reason during this Mania. But, the main event really saved my night. I was surprised. I was swerved, as they like to say. And I enjoyed the main event. I mean, the main event was just really, really entertaining. I thought it was the match of the night. And that really kind of saved it for me. I have to put thumbs way up on this event.
I'm going thumbs up, maybe not all the way up, but more than wavering up. I'd say strongly up for this. Kev?
Yeah, I'll give thumbs up to it as well.
Alright, so that's your post-WrestleMania 31 recap, results, and review from the AngryMarks.com crew. Myself, Stevie J, Killer Kev, Rob the Many, and joining us late in the program, Seth Draken. We have done the deed. So, thank you for listening. Enjoy the replay if you're listening now for the first time. And join us for Raw Reaction tomorrow night with Angry Tensai and Big Vic discussing the first Raw following WrestleMania 31. All brought to you by WrestleWork.com, the social media resource where you can create, connect, and share everything about professional wrestling. Check them out today at WrestleWork.com. Good night, everybody.
All right.